Alright boys, welcome back to another video. Swaggy here. You can also find me over at Daily Vikings where I cover the Vikings every single day like in my name. But in this one, I want to talk to you guys about the loss against the Lions. To me, this is very disappointing because defensively, the Vikings were fantastic. I understand the Lions scored 31, which is below their average. But the first half, the Lions only had 10 points. They were struggling to put together methodical drives. And the Vikings defense, it just went out and made plays. It forced turnovers. The Lions weren't getting explosive plays, but the offense just wasn't able to take advantage of opportunities, whether that be being horrendous on third down. I mean, at one point, the Vikings were 3 for 15 on third down. On fourth down, they weren't able to convert. And also, like, I get taking points. You want to make it a one possession game. But if it's fourth and short, you've got to go for that. You're playing the Lions. They're capable of getting hot in a hurry like they did in this one. Field goals is not beating the Lions. You've got to score touchdowns. And I'm not going to put the blame entirely on Sam Darnold. He did play poorly, 18 of 41, 166 yards. I mean, Darnold was just flat out terrible, but it was because the Lions were sending pressure, whether that be, of course, just cover zero or just setting five. But there was a lot of times where the Vikings didn't even have enough offensive linemen to be able to block all the blitzers. And instead of coming up with concepts to get the ball out of Sam's hands quickly, the play designs were deep, 10, 15 yards down the field. And I mean, that's a Hail Mary at that point because your guys aren't even going to be able to get out of their routes. They're not going to be able to break out of it in time with that pressure coming. And even worse, it's not even about not picking up the first down. It's just your quarterback, franchise quarterback, taking hits. I mean, Sam Darnold, I understand he's on a one-year deal. They've got Daniel Jones. They've got J.J. McCarthy. But are we so sure that Darnold won't be the quarterback next year, maybe even for the foreseeable future? Because if you win 14 games, which the Vikings did in the regular season, how do you just go away from Sam Darnold? I like JJ McCarthy personally. I think he's going to be a star. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's so hard to find a quarterback in the NFL. You don't 14-3. That's just ridiculous, man. So, Darnold had a bad game, but for the Vikings, they didn't need this as much as the Lions did because they're a lot healthier. And personally, I think the Vikings are more built than the Lions to play on the road. Both were incredible on the road, and the Vikings went 6-2 on the road. So I think they'll be fine. But just defensively, I was actually impressed with the Vikings. Like Jahmyr Gibbs went off, 139 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground, and then through the air, Gibbs had 31 and a touchdown. But Jared Goff had 2 picks, 231 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 77 yards. Jamison Williams had 34 yards. Laporta had a pretty good game, but there just wasn't any explosive plays outside of Jahmyr Gibbs. And that's the one thing is I just don't know if anyone has an answer in football for Jahmyr Gibbs running behind the best offensive line of football. And then also the play action concepts for the Lions is just so hard to stop. Thankfully for the Vikings, they don't have to play the Lions until the divisional in the second round. But this road is incredibly difficult. Like, think about it this way. The Vikings, they're going to have to go on the road and beat the Rams. And then they're going to have to go on the road and beat the Detroit Lions. And then more than likely, they're going to have to go on the road and take on the Philadelphia Eagles, assuming they beat the Bucks. Maybe the Commanders will end up winning, and then Vikings will be at home. Some crazy things can happen, but what I think is going to happen is it's going to be Rams, Lions, and then Eagles, and then maybe the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Bills, one of the best quarterbacks of maybe ever. So it's just such a difficult task. But with the way that the Vikings are designed, I don't look at this game and think any less of them. I actually predicted them to win this game. And even when I made my Lions video, I said, I just think the Vikings are playing better football right now. I think they're the better team, and I've got them winning. Obviously, I was wrong. I didn't think I'd be wrong in this way. The Lions get a shootout win, but 9 points, a little bit inexcusable. I just think personally that Kevin O'Connell got outcoached by Aaron Glenn. Ben Johnson outcoached, of course, Brian Flores. That's what it came down to. But I think this will actually help the Vikings because the next time they play, I will have the Vikings beating the Rams, by the way. So the next time they play, it's going to be a much different game. The Vikings now are going to have film and analysis, and they're going to be able to counter this. But the Rams are not a free win. Like, the Rams are probably the worst team you want to go to their building and play because they've got Sean McVay. Kevin O'Connell's from that tree. He was with the Rams before he took the head coaching job for the Vikings. Matthew Stafford's a future Hall of Famer. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are both capable of going over 100 yards with multiple touchdowns. Kyron Williams is great. The defense for the Rams, is going to be the thing is it going to be able to stop this Vikings offense? But just defensively for the Vikings going up against the Rams offense, that's going to be one of the best matchups in all of the first round. But I just can't even fathom having 14 wins and having to start the playoffs on the road. It's just crazy to me, man. It's preposterous. But that's what the Vikings are going to have to do. And now it's just going to come down to execution. The Vikings, I don't think they're going to get rattled from this. I mean, Kevin O'Connell is one of the best coaches. I still think he's going to be a front runner for coach of the year. He's going to rally his guys and make sure that they don't let this get too much to them. But, Minnesota, like I said, I still believe in them. I still think that they're going to do big things in the playoffs. And just because they lost this game doesn't mean they can't go into Ford Field in the divisional and beat them. So, but still, I will say there just wasn't any explosive plays for the Vikings. I mean, Justin Jefferson's longest play, 31 yards is pretty good, but just and Cam Akers, of course, had that 58-yard run, but this just wasn't what I expected. I wanted the Vikings, obviously, to move the ball down the field a little bit more efficiently, and they just kicked field goals, man. Like the Vikings, all of their points were from field goals, and I like the aggressiveness early on. If you're down inside of the 5-yard line, you've got to go for that. You've got to trust your offense. I did not like the decision to kick that 51-yard field goal, not just because it missed, but to that point, yeah, it's one score if you make it. You want to keep it to that. But again, the Vikings, they're not going to win games in the playoffs by kicking field goals. They're going to have to score touchdowns. And with how lethal this offense is, you got to trust Sam to make plays. But the quick passing game, it just was non-existent. The Vikings, they tried to throw the ball deep, but there wasn't time. Like, you don't throw deep when you're being blitzed. If it's an all-out blitz, you've got to get rid of that ball immediately. And you have a one-on-one, and you've got to trust your guys. But again, it was the game plan just wasn't great. The Lions were more prepared. It almost seemed like the Lions felt desperate, and they just needed this game. And the Vikings were like, yeah, we'd love to get this game, but we don't feel as high of it as the Lions. I know that's not true. Like, of course, the Vikings approached this just like the Lions did, but from a viewer, that's what it felt like. It felt like the Vikings didn't take this game as seriously as they should have, and hopefully that is not the case against the Rams, because this game is going to be close. I mean, the Rams are well rested. They rested their starters today. The Vikings had to go all out against the Lions, so you're looking at a Rams on a extra week of rest at home. It's going to be a tough game. But the good thing for the Vikings is that, again, they can play on the road. Aaron Donald's retired, so they don't have to worry about him. But Justin Jefferson, I mean, this is the first time I've actually bet money on Justin Jefferson. And, of course, 9 targets, catches 3 of them for 54 yards. But it's just inexcusable for Jefferson to have only 54 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 receptions. First of all, give credit to Amik Robertson. Absolutely defended him well, but it's just the concepts, the schemes. I mean, the Vikings, they have to be content with, hey, look, okay, let's get rid of it quickly and just be methodical and dominate time of possession. Going up against the Rams, the Vikings are going to have to win time of possession. They're going to have to run the football, and they cannot turn it over as well. Which tonight, the Vikings, I mean, they did turn it over on downs, but they didn't throw a pick. They didn't end up fumbling the football, which is good. But yeah, what this game came down to was just execution and getting out coached. And it'll be very interesting to listen to Kevin O'Connell, what he has to say after the game. But that's all I got for you guys. Swaggy, Daily Vikings, I'm out. Peace.